If you listen to him carefully, he uses this phrase very often that I don't get enough credit, that I do so many things, that I've done this, I've done that, but no one gives me any credit. When you have someone like Mr. Trump, there is very little you can do about many of the things that he says or even he does, and you just have to make your peace in some ways with him. Because it may not necessarily reflect the ground reality. It may not necessarily reflect the way certain outcomes come about. But I think it reflects his own sense of importance. It reflects his own sense of what he brings to the table, and of course, the sense that he needs that he and if you listen to him carefully, he uses this phrase very often that I don't get enough credit. That I do so many things, that I've done this, I've done that, but no one gives me any credit. So I think at some point he's also someone who is looking for certain validation, and that validation he himself gives it to himself.
That's interesting. The U.S. president looking for validation.
Validation, yes. I mean, it's very rare, and I think in some ways that's also the story of our times. That U.S. is not really the preeminent power that it used to be, and therefore American presidency, the most powerful office in the world today, is left to validate itself. That look, I have done this, I have done that, and yet this angst that America doesn't get credit for many of the things that he does. So I do think that most of the countries, in fact, if you see, they are just making their peace with him and with the way he conducts diplomacy, and trying to contain the damage to the bilateral relationship and move on, because that's the best you can do under circumstances.
By letting him say what he says and not really counter it. So
yeah, not back and forth. I think
there is no point doing that. So you move ahead. Let Mr. Trump say and believe what he wants to, even though ground realities could be different. Now, moving on to India-China, there have been very positive signals that bilateral relations are showing improvement, though very cautious, because this is China. So you have to there is a cautious optimism. Also economic ties are going to normalize, political ties probably are going to normalize. What is the progress really? How do you see this?
I think the progress seems to have been significant, as if you look at what is publicly available. And I think the fact that we are now looking at multiple senior level engagements, and probably Prime Minister Modi visiting for the SCO summit to China. I think the change in atmospherics is quite evident. The change is also evident in terms of the what is happening at the people-to-people level. We have seen visas issue being sorted. We have seen Kailash Mansarovar Yatra issue, being now back in the fray. We are looking at, in some ways, the two countries. Again, I think there is a link here with Mr. Trump, that in the day and age of Mr. Trump, most countries are recalibrating their ties with other nations, and it's pretty evident that India and China, with two of the major global economies, will have to recalibrate, will have to reassess. But I would point out that the process started, if you recall, last October, when we had the border agreement. And I think India's point throughout since 2020, if you go back to 2020 Galwan crisis, it was always that China unilaterally altered the status quo along the border. So it is China's responsibility to ensure that we move away from the brink. And once, I think last year, when China did decide to move away from, to take back its positions, we could move on, I think, with a wider set of relationship. And I think that was always what India had maintained, that we will move ahead with other aspects only when the border issue is back to status quo ante situation. And I think once that happened, you have seen movement in India's position on economic matters and others. And I think at a time when global economy is not doing very well, major economic powers have to recalibrate in some ways. And if you recall, I think just recently, Indian Finance Minister said that we are moving forward with China.
She
But of
did, yeah.
course, we have to be cautious in how we deal with China, because the past experience has not been very good.
Yes, and
we
China
ha-
has also claimed progress,
progress
as far as border disputes are
border
concerned.
is concerned. There has certainly been um, a move back from the brink on the border. Whether this leads to a broader reassessment on China's part, that is relatively unclear, because we also saw during Pahalgam how China and Pakistan worked closely together. Since then, we have seen how platforms like SEO, for example, have been instrumentalized by China. So, therefore, when SEO defense ministers meet happened, we did not sign the joint statement. So there is clearly a tension in the relationship. Politically, economically, diplomatically, we are moving forward. But I think the strategic framework of the relationship is still in a limbo.